Hi, my name is Michael Dominguez, and I'm the president and CEO of Associated Luxury Hotels, better known as ALHI. This is our quarterly update, and this is the update following Q1 of 2023, and we're excited to bring to you what we see happening in the industry. First, we're going to start with the hospitality industry and talk about what we've seen after first quarter. That growth has not stopped. It's still a little bifurcated as we expected. And that bifurcation comes from the major metro cities and the resorts. The good news is the major metro cities are seeing the largest growth we've seen year over year. Now, they have the furthest to grow, but still that is a positive trend line for us to get our entire industry back to normal. Overall, rates continue to grow, rates continue to be strong. I think it's important that we keep in mind that the rate growth, the growth of that rate is going to continue to slow down. That's good news, and we're starting to normalize, but the important word here is growth. We're still going to see growth in rates. We're going to see growth across the board, and we're starting to get to a rate normalization in our industry that is real. And when we talk about a real normalization, that is factoring in inflation. So overall, health of the industry looks good. The pipeline is still well behind. We're not seeing a lot of hotels that are being built. It's going to be an interesting environment for those wanting to launch new projects, specifically the rate environment to be able to raise money to be able to build those kind of projects. So we don't see anything to start to pick up that pipeline very quickly, which is good news for stabilization. Even if we slow down just a little bit, we don't see traditional new hotels as we have in past cycles. Overall, that tells us our industry right now looks very hardy, regardless of the headwinds we're hearing in the economy. We haven't quite seen it yet in the hospitality industry. Doesn't mean it wouldn't come, but right now, we're still seeing tremendous strength in our environment. Second, we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about the banking issues that we've seen in the first quarter. Interesting, 90 days ago, that wasn't even on the radar, and it's something we've now been talking about over the last couple of weeks. It's important to know that this too is a little bit bifurcated. It is not a universal indictment of our entire banking system. The largest retail banks, remember the banks that were too large to fail after the financial crisis, they're doing quite well, and they still have a lot of liquid assets that are available. Best example of that is $30 billion that was loaned from those type of banks to First Republic to actually secure that bank to make sure it was still healthy. And then when we talk about Silicon Valley Bank, it is important to understand that Silicon Valley Bank truly was the unicorn in those capital bank markets. They were the only bank that had literally almost 90% of their entire assets that were uninsured. And more importantly, they had almost 60% of those assets secured into long-term treasury bills. When interest rates started to go up, they went upside down, but they are unique. There is no other capital bank that is above that average of 20% of their assets being invested in long-term securities, which means the risk is limited to what we've seen with Silicon Valley Bank. I just think it's important to take a deep breath. It doesn't mean there's not other challenges on the horizon, but I think the Fed has done a great job, and our banking and our Treasury Department has done a great job of making sure we secure the banking assets overall and add a little bit more confidence to an overall consumer. On the horizon, the one thing we are worried about is the commercial mortgage debt that will be starting to come due. That will be problematic in certain cities, in certain areas, but it's an important one to at least keep an eye on. Thirdly, on the horizon, we have to keep an eye on geopolitical situations and changes that we are seeing in the overall environment. These changes will lend to new trade partners, new environments for us, will actually impact financial markets long term. We don't know how this is all going to play out, but as we start to pay attention, we have to pay attention to the US debt ceiling. The issue will be resolved sometime between now and June, but between now and June, there is going to be a lot of political chaos, a lot of political rhetoric that will be out there. We just have to know it's coming. Secondly, these political shifts, when you look at what is happening with China and Russia, both aggressively trying to stake their place in the new world order, that will have dramatic shifts long term. And I'd be remiss if we didn't talk about many of the protests that are taking place around the world, whether it's in Israel, whether it's in Iran, or whether it's in Europe with France wanting to redo their pension program, or the same type of protests in Spain also around pension programs. There's a lot of chaos going on around the world, and something we're going to have to pay attention to. We don't know what it all means, but we do know it will have impact on how the dust settles into the future. Thank you for joining us once again for our quarterly update. We hope you find these valuable. And if you're not on our weekly or bi-weekly calls that we are having to do these updates regularly, please just reach out to us and we will make sure you're added to the list. We think it's important for ALHI to continue to be a valued resource for you and to give you information that helps you do your job a little bit better.